All right, we're going to take some time to get the show started here as we know that many of you are going to be joining the stream. Brandon Leone, David Nuño here in studio as we get ready to start the show. A little bit of feedback in the background. It's all good here. Brandon, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Always good when it's a W at home.
Yes, sir. We will be breaking down this game here momentarily as we allow those on Twitter, those on the TexAgs stream to start popping on as we break down the Aggies' 41-10 victory there over Kent State. A game that I will say I had a lot of emotions. I mean, this is, to me, what college football is all about in a good way and a bad way. I saw a team, Brandon, that I was so excited about, then so disappointed with, and then so excited about, all within about a quarter and a half stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it's one of those games where you could see the elite talent carry you through and cover a lot of mistakes on our part, right? And so I'm glad it was Kent State week one. I'm glad it wasn't, a really strong Power 5 team because of the turnovers, some mental mistakes I know that we made. And again, this is just right after the game. I'm going to go back and watch it, but lots of emotions. And I think Leon O'Neal saved the day, man, with that. And so happy for him, first of all. I mean, it's just awesome to see that guy do well. But yeah, there was a lot left out there,
So I know there's a lot there's a great comment right there about the mistakes. That's the thing that's the most frustrating part about this game. And we'll take it from beginning to end. But thank you to Leon O'Neal, who put in the work all offseason, who saw so much adversity and made a lot of mistakes early on in his career, and then got screwed on a bad call. And he said, you know what? Karma's a you know what? We're going to come back. We're going to pick six this. And people forget he had the pick at the end of the first half as well, which could have made the game a lot tighter. What was it, 10-3 at that point?
Yep.
Kent State is driving. Leon comes up with the pick in the end zone. Not as dramatic as obviously what he did in the third quarter.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's and big-time players respond in big moments. And, you would hope, again, I know everybody's frustrated a little bit, but we did cover. We didn't look great at times, but you saw the potential in Leon being able to respond, like you said, after having a negative play. And the one thing I will say, I think the officiating was super spotty tonight. It was all over the place. But at least it's encouraging for fans to see that they get the targeting call right when it isn't targeting. Like, that's encouraging because I thought for sure, I was like, Leon's done. I mean, just because the way he came in, but they got it right, and that was encouraging for me to see, I think.
All right, so I'm going to take you through some of my emotions because I wrote a lot of notes, okay?
Okay.
So at halftime, you got to remember, like, there's a lot to be excited about, and there's stuff to be super critical about, and what a great time to be an A&M fan where you win significantly. You didn't see it. You were walking in. Kent State called a timeout with 5 seconds left in the game to kick a field goal to beat and they missed the field goal. It was hilarious. But here's some of my emotions. First half left way too many points on the board.
100%.
I counted minimum of 17 points that they should have had. And I mean, you're driving, you've got momentum, you're in scoring range, and you don't get a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1, which to me is just like a turnover, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then you throw an interception on one that it looked like it wasn't Haynes' fault. To me, that first interception looked like he's trying to hit, I think it was Chase in the background, and then Jalen Watermeyer puts his pinky in the way, causes a turnover. Then he does force one to Caleb Chapman. So you're leaving all these points on the board. You left 17-21, right? Spiller, though, in that first half was the thing that was working. They threw the ball 20 times in the first half. They only ran the ball with Isaiah Spiller 9 times in that first half.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, you can tell that Jimbo's trying to get his quarterback comfortable. You know what I mean? He's trying to see what Haynes can do. But for me, it was interesting because I think it was the usual suspects,
Right.
Anias got his touches. Isaiah got his touches. I was really happy with the way they used both him and Devon. I mean, obviously Six is just a dynamic playmaker. But, yeah, I think they were throwing the ball more. I think Jimbo's trying to get used to his quarterback, see how the offensive line is going to pass protect. And it was encouraging to see that. But Spiller's still that guy. I think he's still your main guy that you build the offense around, in my opinion. And he catches the ball to the backfield well. But my goodness, man, when Six touches the rock, he's just so explosive. I mean, he's a dynamic playmaker. One of the most dynamic I've seen in a long time.
This game was about big plays that changed the complexity of the game. Obviously, Leon gets his touchdown, but it's still an interesting game at that point. It is 17-3 at that point?
17-3.
Right? and then A-Chain just goes off. And we had a comment come up on the board here momentarily or moments ago about the A-Chain touchdown. But this game to me it shows that there's still a lot of work to do.
For sure.
Lots of work to do. But also shows that this team, we were complaining about a game that we were dominating the first half. I think 294 yards in the first half, or 274 yards and they almost had 600 yards of offense. They could have had 75 points in this game.
Well, and I think that's what's encouraging, right? You look at OU and Tulane, right? I mean, Tulane is a yard short of maybe driving down and beating OU at home. And imagine if it would have been in New Orleans instead of moved to Norman. And so what you're seeing is A&M fans are disappointed tonight and seeming frustrated. Like you said, a bunch of different emotions, but we still almost had 600 yards of offense. We covered the spread. And, I mean, we kind of did it relatively easy. Leone changed the game with that pick. Then Achaine's touchdown was big. But here's the thing, though. This is the thing that I'm looking at. I was never nervous about the game because of the talent level that we have on the roster compared to our opponent. I was never nervous. The defense is still really solid, unbelievable on the line of scrimmage, I think. But my thing was, if you turn the ball over that many times, especially inside the 30-yard line, you will lose games.
You will absolutely.
I mean, if this was Ole Miss, this Mississippi State, anybody in the SEC West, that's an L guaranteed. So we've got to clean that up. Again, some of it wasn't all Haynes' fault, and there were so many flashes from him. But you got to take care of the football. What does Jimbo say? Every possession ends in a kick. And we didn't punt at all, but we turned the ball over multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we got to take care of that football, whether it's punt, field goal, or extra point.
Well, and here's the thing. We're going to get to CT in a minute. Chris Taylor's going to be joining us. But here's the thing that I struggle with is the fact that we compare ourselves to Alabama. We think we are going to, when Alabama comes to Kyle Field, we're going to take it to them. This is our year for a national championship, a college football playoff berth, all the good stuff. That is still on the cards. It's still a very high possibility. But what you see what Alabama did against a pretty good Miami team and destroyed them. Yep. I expected to have that level of ease early on to where we'd work in some of the younger players. It doesn't matter, though. They won by 30.
Yeah, they did. And you're exactly right. I mean, it's like that video that they tweeted out yesterday that was super awesome. And Jimbo was talking about you impose your will on them. There's no more my bad. You know, I don't think we saw a lot of that tonight. We imposed our will overall, but Alabama imposed their will. They're still the measuring stick. We're getting there. The roster talent shows it, but we don't have the margin for error like that in those big SEC West type games. We've got to clean it up.
All right, let's do this. Let's go to Chris Taylor, who's joining us here on the program. CT, what up, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
So this game, if I would have done the post-game show at halftime, it would have been called the halftime show. It wouldn't have been called the post-game show. But had I done that, I would have been very upset. I would have been confused because you're allowing a team that shouldn't be in the game a chance to breathe. But then in the third quarter, Leone started it going. How do you assess the way this game went, the emotions we went through, and how it finished?
For me, 2.5 quarters, I guess I'm frustrated, and it's just because, there are such high expectations and so big hopes for this team of where this team could go. Jimbo entering his 4th year and he's recruited well and he has a ton of talent on the field. And it's like we sleptwalk. We're dominating the game, but we didn't put it away. And, like Brandon was saying, Alabama got off the bus and they were surgical. They got off the bus. They didn't waste time. They took it to Miami. They got it done. There was never any doubt of what was going to happen in that game. And so, you look up and it's 10-3 at half, and then, it's 17-3, but it was still that uneasy feeling for me just because we're letting a team that we should dominate. They're just hanging around, a ball bounced this way or a ball bounced that way. And now it's maybe a different outcome. And so, I love the fact that we get a huge win, but I would just like to see us approach our game and be, put a team that we're supposed to put away, jump on them, don't give them any kind of confidence, don't give them any hope, and make sure we put them out the game. And then you start working those younger guys in and getting an opportunity to play. So, that first half, I'm like you, the numbers say that we're dominating, but the scoreboard says a whole different thing. And so was a little nervous there, but in the end, you walk away with a big win and you go 1-0 and you look forward to next week.
One of the things that I love about where we are, though, is you win by 31 points, right? And you see so much room for growth. The fact that Kent State, who is known for their offense, really didn't do anything. They had some plays because Crum is able to run and get out of the pocket. They had some speed. But let's go back to what Leon did to the team that really changed, I think, the crowd, the press box, the players, that kind of play. What do you think it signaled to the rest of the team?
I think that was huge. You know, you have a player that has worked his tail off to get in a position to be able to make plays for his team, and he doesn't start the game, but then he comes in and he has an impact. He puts his stamp on the game, and I thought it was a tough call. I'm not even sure what the call was. You hear targeting, but he's not ejected from the game. Is it a late hit? What's the call? And then the very next play, he comes back and he makes a game-changing play for A&M. And so I thought Leon, after that call, you really saw him lock in. He had the pick before that, but it was just like he became a man possessed and he went out, and I thought he played a heck of a second half.
And I'm going to ask both of you guys this. How do you assess Haynes' game? Because I pointed out the stat that last year Kellen only threw 3 interceptions, right? And Haynes threw 3 in this game. That being said, Kellen Mond threw 2 against Vanderbilt to start the season. So this young man did throw some picks. It did hurt. We'll start with you, Brandon. But overall, he was very composed, and he had a couple times he had some drops that hurt him as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, you saw the flashes, and the one thing that you can't replace is experience. And we lost a lot of experience on the offensive line, and we have a brand new quarterback for the first time in what feels like 20 years because Kellen's been there for so long. And so I think what made Kellen so good his senior year was his experience. I think Haynes is excited. He's trying to stretch the field. We were throwing the ball around more. I was excited to see us throwing the ball downfield more. Like you said, more passing attempts, I think, than I've seen maybe in a while in one half. And so, I mean, it's just, I think it's a lack of experience. But you saw the flashes. You saw extending plays. And you saw, I mean, look at that Chase Lane comeback route he threw on the sideline. Yeah. I mean, you saw the arm talent. You saw the legs. You saw the ability to extend the plays. I think he probably forced a few things, but I think that's a lack of experience. And I think the CT is probably going to be able to speak to that extremely well as a receiver. But for me, I think you see the potential, and you know what Jimbo does. This is what he does.
Yeah.
He draws the best and the most potential out of his quarterbacks over time. And so I believe that Haynes is going to be a great player. I know he's going to be frustrated tonight with the turnovers, but I saw some flashes that I'm excited about.
CT?
Yeah, and Brandon hit it on the head, man. I think he had when you look 21 of 33, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, I thought there were 2 throws that he would want, or maybe 3 he'd want to have back. The interceptions. I didn't know that. I don't know that was a good throw on the first 2. The third one, I mean, it was just bad luck, tipped up, and the guy made a play. But like Brandon said, man, there's a ton of talent there. He has the arm talent. We had a couple of drops tonight that stat line could have looked a lot better. So I think the sky is the limit for him. You see the athleticism, you see him being able to escape the pocket, extend plays, and have his guys to be able to uncover and get open. And as a receiver, you love those things because you're never out of a play. You've got to work for your guy, you've got to work to get open and get yourself in a position to make plays. And so I think Jimbo made the right choice. Haynes is the guy. Just got to clean up a few things, and he's going to be fine. So no need to hit the panic button. Everything's going to be fine with Haynes.
Mm-hmm. And I got to apologize, guys. When I'm on my phone, it's not that I'm ignoring you guys. No. I'm texting Billy. We're going to get Billy on here in a little bit, and just we're kind of set it. But I do want to talk about Caleb Chapman.
Yeah. I
was so happy to see him out there. So happy to see that long threat that he brings to them. Mm-hmm. 4 catches, 91 yards. Really look really. And I think 2 things can be the truth. You can appreciate what Kellen Mond did for you, but also appreciate that we have a quarterback who is willing to extend plays and go deep. And I think that's the gunslinger mentality about Haynes that I'm excited about. But let's go back, and we'll start with you, Chris. What you saw from a Caleb Chapman who seems to be right back in form.
Man, he's just a big play guy. I remember during the game, I get a text message from Aaron Oliver, and he's talking about, hey, that 81 looks familiar, talking about Matt Bumgarner and the way that he was able to make big plays at timely, periods in the game. And so I think Caleb is that guy. He stretches the field. I thought the one that was broken up. It was really close. You know, he was behind the defender and it was just a little bit underthrown. But then you see him later in the game. He goes downfield, makes a big play, and that's just what he brings to the game. You know, you have Anais and he's underneath and he's working, and then you have Jalen doing the things that he does. You've always got to account for the run game, but then Caleb takes the top off the defense and gives you that home run threat. So I look forward to seeing Haynes and Caleb hook up a whole lot more this season. I think that's going to be a deadly combination. It's going to be one that defense is going to have to game plan for, because when you have somebody that can stretch the field and make you have to respect that vertical threat, man, that adds a whole nother dimension to your game.
And our thanks to Higginbotham Insurance, by the way, who's presenting this post-game wrap here. Global reach, local touch, single source. We appreciate them helping make this possible. And you were going to add some thoughts on Caleb Chapman.
Well, I love what CT said. I think the beauty of being able to stretch the field with someone like Chapman, and then you got Jalen doing his thing and Nias mixing it up at the slot, is the beauty of Jimbo to me. And I know everyone wants to see us spread it out and do all these things, is it's creating mismatches, and he's stressing out the defensive coordinator. If you got to worry about Chapman going deep and Jalen over the deep middle and Anais out on the bubble screen or across the middle and shallow, then you got to worry about Spiller, and then you see what Achane's bringing to the field. I mean, people are going to watch film and they're going to be like, man, what do we commit to, right? And then for me, the recipe was there tonight. We're going to depend on a veteran-led defense that's going to limit offenses, that's super talented, that's experienced field, and then we have all these playmakers at Jalen, Chapman, Anais, Spiller, Achane around an inexperienced O-line and a super raw, talented freshman quarterback. And we're gonna have to depend on this defense, but there's gonna be times where these young electric playmakers change the game, and that's what's gonna happen. I think defense is gonna fight all year, be great, and these guys that can stretch the field, they're gonna change the game. It's gonna happen.
Well, I think one of the beauties, by the way, is that, and somebody put a comment about this earlier. I think Jimbo, what he was doing was showing Haynes, hey, I'm going to let you throw and work out some of these kinks in a game that we are going to dominate. And again, they won by 31 points, a game that I thought I made this prediction on the air the other day. I was like, I think it'll be like not close, but feel close up until the third quarter, and then we'll pull away. And it turned out to be that. And I'm going to read you guys a couple of my comments because I have a stream of conscious little thread going on for me. And I sometimes don't post it on social media because people will pick that point. Hey, you didn't believe in us. For sure. But this is how my mind works. Right? So leaving too many points out there. That was at halftime notes. Leaving too many points, can't convert on 3rd and 4th and 1. That equals a turnover. 2 picks inside scoring opportunities, dumb. 17 points left behind. Spiller, exactly what we expected. 9 attempts for 74 yards. I think typically he might get more looks than we saw what we saw in the first half. I thought he would have about 180 to 200 yards, and then maybe Spiller would have 110, and we weren't that far off by the end of it.
No, and again, I think they're trying to find their identity. You know, every new team, every season, it's a new identity. It's a new team, and you got a lot of players that come back, but you hear coaches talk about it all the time. They're trying to find their identity, and you hit the nail on the head. This is Kent State. You know, I think things might have looked different from a play calling standpoint, a strategy standpoint, if this was a bigger game. Like you knew you could, overpower this team and without talent them. And so I think that they were kind of changing it up tonight, giving Haynes different looks, mixing in 28, mixing in 6. I do hate the turnovers because I think it limited the ability to put these young guys in towards the end of the game. Yeah. That's the one thing that I was frustrated about is, we didn't get to see some of these younger guys, but it's okay. They'll get in there soon.
CT?
Yeah, I don't want to create that habit with the turnovers. I think when you get used to doing that, and then you can, you say, well, we can lean on our defense to do these things. I just think that we've got to clean that the turnover battle up. We got to clean it up, and I think Jimbo will do that this week. I think it's just a matter of being smart with the football, and I think we were very vanilla. You didn't see a bunch of exotic blitzes, and you didn't see Jimbo, the defense bringing a ton of pressure and things like that. And so, it's game one. Like Brandon said, it's Kent State. You knew you were going to win the game. You just didn't know by how much. I think we were very vanilla. But now as you see what you're working with, the player that really stood out to me on defense was Antonio Johnson, man. I thought he was all over the place tonight. Leon kind of outshined him with the big pick and then taking it back to the house. But, I saw Antonio, he was all over the field to me. in that first half. He was making plays. He was knifing through. He was doing big things. And so, you're going to see what guys you have as we progress to game 2 and game 3 leading up to that Alabama game. But, as far as, really kind of tipping and showing your hand, I didn't think that they had to do a whole lot of that tonight. They were able to be very vanilla, and you really see what you got. You've got some guys, you know what that defensive front is going to do. We're trying to figure out, what our linebacker situation is going to be. And so, game 1, they're going to be fine, and they're going to get their legs, and I think they're going to dominate the next few games.
Hey guys, let's take a minute to appreciate the youngsters that played in this one. We've talked a lot about Haynes, and there's a couple other stats I want to get into with Haynes, but how about Shamar Turner?
That's what I was about to say.
Dude.
That was what I was about to say.
I mean,
he's a dog.
He is a grown man out there. And we've said that about some of these guys. Like, these are 18-year-old men, but they're like giant, like Bryce Foster. You've got Shamar. Like, I mean, these are men out there.
Yeah. Hey, you know who else was cool to see towards the end? I saw him before I left to come over here was Gilbert coming in off the safety blitz.
Right.
I mean, he looked explosive and fast downhill, but Shamar Turner, to me, like, he pops. You turn on the tape sometimes and you're like, oh, who's that? Who's that? Today I was pulling out my phone, looking at the roster, like trying to find out who these young guys were. But when big dude came in there, Turner pops off tape. He's going to be an absolute animal for this defense.
What do you think about that, CT?
What's crazy is, they're big guys, and they all want to wear single digits. We got to get, our receivers and things, they need to fight for their numbers, So, man, when Shamar got that first sack, I was like, who is that guy? And I was like, Brandon, who is this guy? Number 5, he busts through, he's doing these things. But, man, he's going to be a dude. And so, with the stuff going on with McKinley and whatever's happening with Clemens, you got a guy in Shamar that kind of steps in there and you don't really miss a beat. And, we know what Marv does, and he just makes big plays. So, man, I'm excited about seeing these young guys play. And man, the one who's really stood out was Turner tonight.
Let me throw this out there, guys. We talked a little bit about Haynes, his turnovers, but some of his composure. How about that first drive? That first drive, 6 of 6, 5 different wide receivers. He could have gone 7 for 7. I believe that's where Anias dropped one in the middle of the field. But he hit Jalen Watermeyer, he hit Chapman, Spiller, Lane, Anias. They went down the length of the field like they've been doing this for years, that this was a veteran starter and he was a freshman starting, getting his redshirt freshman, getting his knocks out there. I thought the way he started the game, to me, just shows how the moment wasn't too big for him.
Agreed. I mean, he looked smooth. Those first drives, sometimes they're scripted, sometimes they're not. It's kind of like the 2-minute drill. I mean, those guys have been working on that. But the way we spread the ball out, the way we spread the field, the way Haynes was looking and going through his progressions. I mean, again, you saw those flashes early on from him. And I think Jimbo is going to continue to work on him. He's going to continue to get more comfortable with his receivers. He's been mainly rolling with the ones as a starter since middle of last week.
Yes.
And so it's going to take some time for them to develop some rhythm. And again, I think CT can kind of speak to that. He's going to develop trust with these receivers, and they're just going to continue to get more and more efficient as the weeks go on.
Yeah. And I'm not worried about Haynes. I mean, it's, if you look at that Oklahoma game, I mean, you have a guy that's supposed to win the Heisman and be the first pick in the draft and all of these things. Guys struggle. And, his numbers, to me, Haynes' numbers were great. He just had a couple of throws that wasn't there. But, like Brandon said, as he's able to work with these guys more, he's going to, understand where they're going to be in certain situations. And, it's just going to be that trust. If I throw it up, Jalen's going to come down with it, or, Anias is going to get it, or Chapman's going to get it. And so he's going to develop that trust, and he's going to start letting that thing go. And so, that first drive, that I think that shows flashes of what he really can be. He was composed. He made great decisions. And I think I tweeted on that play, or after that touchdown drive, they made it look simple. And, this was a guy who's getting his first start. And so it was really simple, but those are flashes of what's to come. And now it's just got to be able to, limit the bad plays, make sure that you're taking care of the football, and you're building every single game leading up in the season. You're just getting better and better every single game.
Guys, I want to look at the number of yards that Kent State was able to put up. So, yes, they're Kent State. They don't play the same level of competition that we see in the SEC, and they had a very reduced schedule last year. But with that, they were averaging 605 yards per game, I believe it was, okay? Today they had 336 yards. You told me earlier, Brandon, every year is different, and I agree with that. But 336 yards, A&M 595 yards, 41 points that it should have been 60. So when we're saying this, there's something there, guys. There is something there.
Oh yeah.
There's so much there. We left so much on the table. I mean, and y'all think that we're disappointed and the fans are disappointed. I mean, I promise you, Jimbo and Elko are watching tape with the staff tomorrow and reviewing the game film thinking, oh, my goodness, we left so much out there on the table. And like you said, we could have put 21 more points on them. And we gave them an additional 4 possessions that they wouldn't have had. So, I mean, if this was a normal game without that many turnovers, I mean, this team probably ends up with 200-something yards. And this, well, I don't know what they averaged 40-plus last year. I mean, I don't know too much about them from last season, but the little bit I knew, they had up-tempo, explosive, quick offense, which usually stresses our defense out. And I was never stressed on defense. That's what I'm saying. Literally never stressed because I think Elko's the best in the business. That line of scrimmage, the people we have on the front four are unbelievable. And it's exciting to see because, like you said, sloppy, oh, man, frustrated. And this team had 336 yards with 4 additional possessions they would have never had.
Well, we're working on getting Billy Liucci here on the show. By the way, it is the post-game wrap here presented by Higginbotham Insurance. Having a good old time in studio. Brandon Leone, CT, with us here. And let's do this, Dalton. Well, he's not back there. I was going to have Dalton pull up some of the comments that are out there as we wait for Billy to join the show. But if they play the way they play today, okay, fast forward that to next week against Colorado. Colorado is not the level of SEC play we are, but I think it is a nice step up in weight to get ready for SEC schedule. CT?
Again, I think he's good. Next week, Colorado, I think, he would have been fine in that one. I thought he made 2 bad throws and everything else was great. If it's, as he progresses to that SEC schedule, I think he wins the Colorado game. And then as we get in there, to the ones that scare me, the Mississippi's always scare me, but, he's going to continue to grow. He's going to continue to get better. And, if we were playing the next week opponent tonight, I think we still have the same result. We run them out of the building and the game's not close by the end of it. So, I tell A&M fans, relax. We're going to be fine.
Let me read some scores real quick just so we're caught up with everything. UCLA is up 38-27. It looks like 2:51 left in the game. 38-27 over LSU. As you know, Alabama just brought it to Miami, 44-13, the final in that one. I watched most of that Oklahoma, or part of that Oklahoma-Tulane game. That was a game, guys.
That was a game.
Really
Oklahoma,
good game.
40-35. Georgia, Clemson. Very not surprised by the victory, but surprised by the score in this one. Clemson only puts up 3 points. 10-3 is the final in that one.
I love to see LSU lose. I will never not celebrate that. I love to see Clemson lose, and I will never not celebrate that. And I was really sad to see OU win. But someone said this on Twitter. I thought it was really funny. It was like, hey, Sankey let the wrong TU into the SEC. Like, they give OU more of a fight than Texas ever has. So props to Tulane after everything that they went through, and all the people in Louisiana with the storm, and then going to Norman and literally almost pulling off the upset. That was fun to see.
The UCLA game is now a final, 38-27. And while I
love it.
I love LSU losing, but I don't. It's funny, like I brought this up on the show Friday. I'd love to get both of your thoughts on this. I used to want our teams that we played to lose, so it's an easier matchup for us. I feel like A&M is past that to where I want them to be good because I want style points. I want our wins to matter, and I don't want LSU not to be ranked when we beat them by 21 points in Baton Rouge in a couple of months. So that's kind of my thinking has shifted because of how good I think we can be.
It's so interesting how much I agree with you on that, but I say this all the time. My heart is always in recruiting.
Right.
So our closest rivals that we recruit against, you know what I'm saying? LSU, Texas, OU, Bama and some of those schools in the SEC. I want to see them lose. I used to be like, come on, SEC. I'm like, no, lose.
Yeah.
Let's go win. And so everyone talks about us not having a history of winning, blah, blah, blah. Let's go win. Let's see these other people lose because give me all your top 5 guys. I want 5 stars everywhere. I love it. I'm all about recruiting.
I love it. CT.
And Brandon, it is all about recruiting. and I've tried to get better at it. You know, one of my best friends in the world, he's a Texas guy. He doesn't know any better. And, you know, Texas is as bad as they've been. You know, the coaching carousel going through Austin, you know, they're still having, you know, top 10 recruiting classes. And so, you know, the recruiting game is a funny one. I think that these kids are going to do what they're going to do. Some kids recruit, they commit places because of uniforms or it's a bigger market or whatever the case may be. And so, you know, I've always been of the mindset, I want the team's best shot. You know, I don't want to hear that, oh, our quarterback was hurt or we didn't play our best ball. I want their best shot, because when we put it to them and we go out and we get the win, now they can't come back and say, oh, well, we didn't play well or this or that. I want best on best. I want good on good, and I want those wins against those teams when they're at their best. And so, you know, when LSU losing tonight, it's kind of bittersweet. I don't like LSU either, but I want to see them win. It'd be great if we went into the season going against everybody undefeated, and we're handing them out. We're handing those losses out to them, you know, one by one. So kind of mixed emotions, but you know, as long as we're winning the recruiting game, we're winning the recruiting trail. I think that I could care less what those other teams are doing.
Guys, I want to go back to a moment. I was in the stadium, and then I look to my right, and I see the monitor up there, and I see Johnny Manziel, watching on as Haynes King is having himself a ball game. Of course, to his right is Billy Liucci, of course, looking cool out there on the sidelines. But to me, to have Johnny here tonight, it was kind of cool because Haynes, not saying he's going to be Johnny football. That's an unfair comparison. But the game is very similar in the way he's shifty, the way he runs at people, the way he can extend plays. I just thought it was nice to have Johnny here on this opening night after not having a full capacity crowd in over a year, and Haynes getting his first start.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think about it, right? Small town kids, big time players from the state of Texas. And I mean, there's a lot of similarities and then there's a lot of differences, but I think it's always great to have the GOAT in the house. You know what I mean? It's great to see Johnny back in Aggie land. And I'm sure it was cool for Haynes to be out there playing, knowing that he was on the sideline watching him and supporting him. And I know Johnny always does a great job with these guys, I'm sure, encouraging them. And so it was so awesome to have the fans out there tonight, man. I didn't come to a game last year for the first time since I was probably 14 or 15 years old. So to be back tonight and then doing what we were doing with the red, white, and blue, my birthday's 9/11. So I always get excited about, you know, that. And it was just fun to see the fans, man. It was exciting.
Yeah. How did it look on TV, CT?
Man, it was amazing. I mean, and you know, to commemorate 9/11, you know, it was 20 years ago, but I still remember exactly where I was at when I heard the news about the World Trade. And then, you know, A&M is just a special place. And then, I mean, you have the red, white, and blue. You have the field stripe the way it is. You have Johnny in the building. It's a new era at quarterback. It was just a bunch of different things. And I mean, to be able to take it in and to watch it, you know, I got a chance. I watched it with my son tonight. You know, we you know, he loves football, but he's starting to get into that deal where now he's asking more questions and, hey, well, what about this? And now we're talking ball. And so, you know, to be able to sit there and watch the game with him, and, you know, he wasn't even born when 9/11 happened. And so to be able to do those things and tell him about the game, you know, they showed a clip on TV. It was, you know, they showed it back from 2001. And he's like, well, what game was that? And just to be able to explain it to him and go through and to share that moment, man, it was, you know, it was just a special night just to be an Aggie. You know, Johnny's in the building, Haynes under center, red, white, and blue, and then A&M goes and get a 41-10 victory, man. It was, you couldn't have wrote it any better.
CT, appreciate you joining us, brother. We'll do it again, okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you so much. We're now joined by Billy Liucci, who was there on the sidelines. Billy, I know we got about 3 or 4 minutes with you, man. Just your initial thoughts after this turnover fest / beatdown.
It's absurd that I'm sitting 30 feet away from y'all, and Dalton's in such a panic telling me how difficult it would be to get a third person on that set. So if you look here, you've got Broninger, Logan, Katie. They've got to be quiet while I do this. But no, David, you knew all week that I was worried about sloppiness. I go back 2 years ago, that Texas State game. That was a bad Texas State team, and that was like it kind of, you know, the Aggies had to kind of gradually pull away. You go back to what was the last open? It was Texas State, and then last year Vandy obviously was A&M's worst game of the year. And I think just based on what Bronny's over here, he's reporting to us from Twitter, but Jimbo didn't sound real happy about the way they played. And I thought they, I didn't think they at the very beginning they came out with that fire, but then, they got out to that lead, even though it wasn't much of a lead, but it was a touchdown lead. And I just felt like they were playing like they didn't think there was any way they could lose. And it was Leon, like you tweeted about it, Nuño. He really did wake them up with that pick six. I mean, that was the turning point and they needed something. I was standing there talking to Buddy Johnson about it, and I was asking him, like, as a player, Leone, CT could say this. Sometimes you're pressing early in the season, and you just need an icebreaker, right? Just something to break the seal and take the pressure off, and jumping up 17-3 instead of what would have been, or 20-3, what would have been like 13-6 or 13-10. And then they kind of find, even though it still wasn't perfect, but they kind of cut loose, and then you start seeing them kind of have fun out there and start ripping off those big plays. But all in all, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. They're going to have to play a lot better. I'm going to say that, and people will disagree. They're going to have to play a lot better to beat Colorado, and I think they will. I think this will be a good learning experience for them.
Billy, wouldn't you say, though, a game where you almost get 600 yards, you leave a lot of points out there, you hold a team that's last year averaged almost 600 yards to, 305, whatever it was. The fact that there was all these mistakes, yet you still had about 20 other points you could have put on the board and control this game from the second quarter on. A lot of mistakes, but still a lot of domination at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they did. They rolled up and down. Haynes with 3 picks. The one before the half I thought was his worst one, and then one of them was tipped, way up in the air. You had some drop passes that didn't help him even early in the game. It should have been 14-3, not 10-3 there. Anais, who had a great game, had that drop. Then he also had the mistake on the fumbled punt there, which I'm not positive he touched. That was right in front of me. Of course, I can't see a damn thing, so who knows? But look, I would be interested to see what Kent State does. They're picked to win their division in the MAC and contend for the MAC title. MAC teams all the time give Big Ten teams, fits. And I was thinking about that today when I was watching Big Ten football. Look at this piece of work.
TexAgs up.
Subscribe. No, I think that if they're a true MAC title contender, they returned 19 starters, brought in a bunch of transfers. They had a veteran senior quarterback that might get a look at the NFL. That's why I was worried about the game just being sloppy. I thought A&M would pull away, but David, I thought it would be a back and forth scoring pull away. I didn't think the A&M offense would struggle to hit, to score points for 2.5 quarters or whatever they did. But look, they'll go work on it. There's a lot of good to take away from this one. And look, if you're going to win by almost 30 points in the opener against a veteran team, even though they're an FCS, not FCS, group of 5, I'd take it. I'd take that score. I'd take the result. And there was enough to see where you go, if they can put it all together next week, they could have a really good showing. I want to see that first game to second game jump, though, because, look, Arkansas didn't look that good today. Mississippi State looked terrible. If they can go clear this hurdle next weekend, this might be their toughest one between now and when Bama comes in here. And this will look like a completely different team. No Clemens, no McKinley Jackson, no Miles Jones, a bunch of other dudes playing. I think Shamar Turner will end up starting at D tackle before too long. So you really might have been without 4 of your 11 defensive starters in this thing.
Billy, tomorrow, Luchador podcast, my friend. Clay Taylor hanging out there. We'll catch up tomorrow.
Okay, so yeah, we'll do that. We'll do some a little long form. I'll go get to the cover story. New post game coverage. I'm excited about it. Leone, I guess I'll talk to you in a minute since I'm 20 feet away.
Thank you, Billy.
Yes, sir.
Talk to you later, brother.
All right, guys.
All right, so as we close up here, the post game rat brought to you by Higginbotham Insurance. Final thoughts: the good and the bad.
The good is the overall talent on this team is good enough to overcome the bad. And you can see that we have playmakers at a lot of different positions. I mean, we didn't even talk about Jalen Jones tonight.
Right.
Go watch the film on that guy. They don't test him. I think this defense is going to get nothing but better. Like Billy just said, we had 4 of our main guys out. You hit it earlier in the show. I thought this team was going to move the ball on us. I mean, I knew we'd do well, but I didn't think we'd do that well. I think this defense is going to be a problem, especially as we get healthy and more experience. The bad was take care of the football. I love the thing that Jimbo says, every possession ends in a kick. That's a big deal. If you watch football and you realize you're not punting it, kicking off after a touchdown, or kicking an extra point, you got to take care of the football. That's the tail of the tape for me. And we still put up 600 yards and won by 30 with 4 turnovers. The team will improve. It's going to be okay.
And I'm going to end it with this. We won by 31. We won by 31.
We avoided bad beat too.
Right? Like, and when you win by 31 and you have stuff to be upset about, and you have almost 600 yards of offense, and you only give up 336 yards of offense, and you have big plays from A-Chain and Leon O'Neal, it's going to be all right, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching the post-game wrap brought to you by Higginbotham Insurance. It's been fun. We'll do it again very, very soon. Thank you again. Tomorrow, Luchador Podcast right here in studio, and Billy's got a write-up. We'll see you then.